From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicky Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Captain's Log Supplemental.
Miss Vicky.
Yes, sir.
You know what?
What?
I've been thinking about this Sentinel system.
Yeah. Tell me about the Sentinel system.
So what I was thinking was, we have the one car that's got the aim dash that's slowing us down. Because installing the aim dash is actually, it probably is easy, but it's quite hard the first time. And we haven't figured that out yet. The Sentinel system is really easy to set up. So what I was thinking was, why don't we put it in the Lemons car? And we'll worry about the aim data information separately. And we'll kind of break it down into a project. Because then we'd have the motorsports video system that we really, really want, and we'd be able to stream it. We just won't have the data inside, but we have the data outside, so we can combine them later. But I think that's a really good solution.
So what does this Sentinel system do?
Well, if it had the aim data, it would have all the data on the screen, and you could see all their telemetry and everything live. But we'd be able to not only record it for viewing after the race, but we could actually watch our car during the race.
Ooh, like on the monitor and everything?
On a monitor, if you were at home and I was at a track, or if you were at the track and I was at home, depends on who gets the short straw, but we'd be able to watch each other.
It's something I've always wanted to do.
And you know what? If you're driving, you know what you can do on the Sentinel system?
What's that?
You can communicate to me with your hands, and I can't do a thing about it.
Even better.
So, if you need to give a wave or a Jersey wave, whatever you need, we could save it and see it on the screen. And then you can have up to 3 different cameras, and it'll have picture in picture. You'll have the basic main shot out the front window, and then 2 cameras where you put them wherever you want. One could be on the driver, or one could be on the rear view. It's kind of cool.
Then we can upload it onto YouTube.
We could bore millions of people on YouTube.
I love it.
All right. Very well. You know what the only downside I see about this?
What?
Your mom and my mom are going to be panic-stricken the entire weekend watching this thing to see if everything's going well.
This is true.
We probably shouldn't tell them.
I like the idea of having a Sentinel.
Mm-hmm. Well, luckily we have maybe 2. Depends on how things go. We're going to try. All right. That sounds like a plan. That's the project. We got to get that ready for the next race.
Sounds great.
All right. Very well. Thank you, ma'am. Miss Vicky, I'm thinking the reason we started this was to get people started and to help people learn how to do stuff. But luckily, we have somebody who can answer stuff on how to do it the right way.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
His name.
Who is it?
His name is Ben Dawson.
Hi, dog. What are you doing?
Sounds like some kind of
What's up,
grifter
Ben?
douchebag.
Hi.
Oh, hey.
Hi,
Hey.
dog. Okay.
Hi, dog.
What's up?
Yeah, my tongue got stuck.
What's up, dog? What's up, dog?
What's up, dog? So how you doing, Ben? How
I'm
you
doing great.
doing,
I'm
Ben?
doing
Good.
stellar. Let's talk about some racing stuff.
These are the ones where I laugh when she makes fun of my intros. But hey, whatevs. Mr. Dawson, there's been some heavy communication on the interwebs this week, and there's been some struggles and some questions about something that's fairly simple yet tremendously important to the safety of our listeners and even the billions and billions who don't listen.
Online. Let's hear
Exactly. how do you install a racing harness properly in a race car?
Well, first of all, you need to make sure that you're buying safety components that are not counterfeit. So go to a reputable vendor, make sure you're buying something where you're not going to get ripped off. I'm not going to go buy a set of harnesses off of Amazon because they may say that they're coming from, Schroff or whatever, however you say that. But, and it may look almost, 99.5% like it does, but it could still be not exactly the right thing. It could be some rebadged BS or whatever it is. So let me start there and just say, buy your stuff from a reputable vendor, a place like, what would you say, like OG Racing or Safe Racer or Winding Road Racing, one of those big old safety houses.
And just because it has a hologram does not mean it's good, because they've started impersonating the holograms now.
Yeah. So buy from a reputable source, and then you want to take it out of the packaging and read the instructions. There might be some information about what angles are ideal for this set of harnesses, for the straps to be, at which angle the straps need to be. So pay attention to all that and make sure you understand how it relates to what you're planning to do when you install it. You don't want to install harnesses, just, a set of harnesses around, a stock seat. Right. Like, I mean, there are some harness bars that you can buy, or some harness things where you can strap them into your back seat belt mounts or something. Right. But even still, you want to have you want to have them come through holes in the seat behind you. You don't want to have them coming around your seat and wrapping around you. So you want to make sure you have the right kind of seat.
Let's since we are not safety professionals in racing, let's stick with race seats and something that has a roll bar at least, or a really installed cage. Because
gotcha. All right, so we're assuming that our starting point is somebody who's got a real race bucket with the holes for the harnesses in the side and the back, above your shoulders, and then we're going to assume that this person has at least a 4-point roll bar or a full cage. So that's great, because I do not want to talk about stock seats and stuff like that, because I don't know anything about it. Yeah, I mean, when I started with my very first car, it was a Miata that I was doing autocross with. I was already too tall for it. So I started with an Ultra Shield aluminum seat, bolted to the floor, and a 4-point bar. So the very first thing I ever did in that car was put race seats and bar and harnesses in. So I think it's important when you're installing harnesses to read the directions and then start trying to fit it into your car. What do you guys do?
Miss Vicky, you're like the harness whisperer on the team, largely because you fit.
Oh, harnesses!
And you have small hands.
I hate harnesses.
I know, but you're still the person we tell to do it. So
yeah. So when I line up the harnesses, it's usually a touch and go thing anyway. But you usually have your 2 pins that's up underneath, and or they're hooks, and you hook them on. Those are the most difficult ones to get.
Are you talking about the front or the back?
Oh,
or the
between
sides?
the legs.
Okay.
Between the legs and then the sides.
The
so
sub
they clamp onto the car, right? The sub belts. So
could
the
be
thing
one.
about those,
If it's a 5-point belt, you'll have 1, and if it's a 6-point, you'll have 2.
correct.
Yep.
The thing is that they do get touchy, them being the people that are judging and checking your car, to make sure that those have pins in them. There's little holes where those hooks are. You have to put the pins in. To do that, and you can use baling wire, or you can use
You're talking about safety wiring.
Safety wire.
Yeah.
safety wire. Yeah, we've been kind of caught a couple times on that
Because we play with them too much.
Yeah, and then I roll them all the way up on the back end behind the seat. I don't want those obviously flailing around, so I roll those into nice and neat
Rolls.
You talk about
rolls.
after the shoulders are installed and you roll the
yeah.
I feel like we skipped a big.
Skipped a bunch of stuff.
Well, that's right, and that's how I finish off. But setting it, I like to try to
wrapping it around the roll bar and threading it, all those sort of things. You want to talk about that at all, or no?
So let me help, because you know how to do this and you are struggling. So you typically you're going to have eye hooks on the front, right? And you're going to clip them and then safety wire them closed, or cotter pins or whatever, right? The sub belt. Okay.
Right.
What's important about setting the sub belt?
Size.
Oh. Well, crotch size is whatever is
Extra large, please.
yeah, that didn't come out right. So you certainly want that to be around your belly button or below. You want it below your belly button, right around that area.
No higher.
No higher. And that's always the trickiest one because you really got to get in there. You can't really get the adjustments. And that's why they usually put me on there because my hands are thin that I can get down in the seat without having to constantly rip the seat out. And
it's tough. That's a tough one to set the way you want.
Well, it's hard because
it really
we have
is.
sliders and we've got multiple people.
We have sliders and different sizes. So that's always a tricky part. So we try to get as middle of the road we can with that one. And then
okay, so the two on the side, the lower ones on the side are again going to be
they don't really matter
eyebolts.
that much.
Right, but they're
they don't
eyebolts
matter.
for the seat belt, what would be traditionally a seat belt going across. So those are pretty straightforward.
And we refer to those as your lap belts. The sub belts are to keep you from submarining or sliding under the belt. So that the sub belt needs to be a good position just for the main reason that it's going to keep you from submarining, but also it kind of holds everything else down. It holds everything else in place into the right tension where you want it. So your lap belts are going to be held in the right position across your body that you have your anti-submarining belt tension correctly. Your lap belts, there's a lot to be said about lap belts, pull up versus pull down, but we're talking about just securing your harnesses safely here.
Yes.
So, right. So like Bill said, typically your harnesses are either just just a straight through kind of eyelet that you're reinstalling this. You might be reinstalling the stock seat belt bracket bolt or something like that. Some of this stuff you're going to be able to reuse the stock seat mounting and seat belt mounting hardware for. In some cases, you might need to go to the hardware store and get some really nice grade 8 or M10, 12. The whatever the higher grade steel is for your metric or standard application. But that's the kind of stuff. If you're going to be buying any fasteners that are going to be involved with your seatbelt, your harness, it needs to be grade 8 or the metric equivalent. Same goes for washers. They
usually come with the eye bolts with the harnesses, just so don't sit there and say, "Oh, those."
They usually do, but you're going to end up at the hardware store at some point.
So for sure.
Be aware that you want the higher grade materials to be holding your body to into the race car. But I and then when you get we've got our sub belt, we've got our lap belts installed. Now it's time for the black magic that is the shoulder belts and draping them down and figuring out how long to make them. And there's no easy answer. Once you've done it a few times, you kind of get a good eyeball sense. But the first 3 times, you're just going to be, wrapping around the roll bar, getting them all squared away. Then you sit down I need to pull it back or brush it down. So you're going to be threading and unthreading those things a handful of times the first time you do it. So be ready for some trial and error and getting your shoulder belts right. But they're kind of the final piece of the puzzle. And Bill has more to say about that.
So the seat belt or the lap belt, the important thing you need to do is make sure that you can get your smallest, thinnest person fully tight, as well as your largest, most luxurious team member fully tight without running out of adjustability on the belt. Like, don't bottom out or don't top out, and make sure everybody fits. Try to get as close to the middle as possible. And that's where the lap belt matters. And then the shoulder belt is this magic voodoo that Vicky pulls off. Miss Vicky, shoulder belt wrapping without being able to see video. I can't wait to hear how you do this one. Go ahead.
The shoulder belt wrapping around the
roll bar.
Secure it?
Uh-huh.
Well, I used to wrap it around the roll bar.
Yeah.
Is what I used to do. I used to just keep circling it and then putting a tie on it.
The winding.
Now you just tie it to the door handle or what?
No, what I did see somebody do.
Remember the buckle that you have to wind into? Can you?
The buckle.
You're talking about the buckle. Oh my gosh, yeah. So you have to go through the buckle, back over itself, and then back in again. Is basically what it is. You almost have to do you almost have to do a little bit of a snake slither that kind of goes through it. It's really kind of bizarre. All of them come with instructions to look at it, but That's the best way. I mean, unless I have a visual to show, it's really
I know.
difficult to.
That's why I said I can't wait to hear you describe this. This should be endlessly fun.
Yeah.
But
your shoulder belt's going to come with a buckle already in it or with it that you can slide onto the shoulder belt. It's got 2 long slots in it, the width of the belt, and you're going to poke your belt with all the padding and the buckle in down through the hole in your shoulder of your seat, and then you're going to lay the rest of it across your roll bar, the horizontal bar, not the main hoop up top, not one of the diagonals, but the bar that goes behind your seat. And then once
the harness bar.
The harness bar, that's right. Then once it's laying over there and you kind of got that buckle positioned pretty close to the bar, then that's when you're going to start wrapping it around the roll bar and doing all the threading it back through the buckle. You thread it in, you thread it back through, and then you thread it through one more time to kind of cover it. Their last one is going to kind of cover up the buckle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where you've got it. And you want to. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to be obsessive about making sure it's the tightest you can get it to the roll bar, because it's never going to be it's not designed to be so tight against the roll bar it can grind the paint off. Do you know what I mean? So I've gotten lost in trying to get it perfectly tight before. There's really no way to do that. As long as it's there and secure is the main thing.
The goal is not to strangle your roll cage. It is to
Right.
make sure that the harness is not going to slip when you're going forward.
Right.
Right.
You don't get
I'm just
bonus
saying,
points for compressing the roll bar. It's not part of the deal.
I've been down that rabbit hole like a dumb before. Just don't worry about it. It's fine. So as long as you got it on there, and they're not massively loose, it's fine. So get it as tight as you can, and then repeat on the other side. And then Vicky, like Vicky said, you'll have a lot of excess. Well, I mean, depending on the configuration of belts you've bought, it might be fairly close, but in some cases you might have a foot or two of extra webbing left over on that belt that you want to roll up and zip tie together. I'm sure Vicky has some sort of like little cozy she puts on top of it after she gets it all collected.
It's amazing.
One thing that I've seen people do to limit the travel of the shoulder belts along the bar to keep the shoulder belts from walking around is zip tie them together. Maybe you put a big zip tie across them, or put some roll tape, or you can get some little collars from Master Car.
Yeah.
There are a number of things you can do to keep them from walking all over the place. And also just remember, for the most part, they're not going anywhere. I mean, as long as they're attached to your shoulders that are tied to you, it's not like their belts are going to be like trying to leave the county or anything. But there are definitely ways that I've used all 3 of those different methods to try to keep them from getting separated or moving around.
Right. We like the collars personally.
Mm-hmm.
You put
it's
two
just
collars.
nice. It's just nice to go to McMaster Car for any reason, right?
It is. It's so much cheaper than a race
Mhm.
shop. So much cheaper.
I love it. It's like porn to me.
It is. Well, all right. Put that thing away, Ben. We're talking about McMaster Car, and
Woo!
Yeah.
So the thought
Okay,
behind the
I'm settled.
collars is you put them between the 2 shoulder harnesses, and they essentially take up slack in the system. So that the first thing when you're being forced forward in a case of a sudden stop is not to bring the shoulder harnesses closer to each other and take
Right.
that freedom out. So
That makes sense.
we like
Yeah.
them. We think they're important. They're definitely optional. We didn't have them for many of our cars, and then we learned about them and said, oh, well, more is better, usual race car stuff. And that's why we use them. So I think we can probably do some pictures.
Heavy. They're heavy.
Not with
I'm
the
just kidding.
speed that you've been teaching us, Mr. Dawson. I mean, thanks to you, we dominate no matter how much speed. I mean, how much weight we carry.
This guy won't even paint a race car. Like, I won't even put paint on a race car. But yeah, it's nice. The collars are nice.
Yeah. So, Miss Vicky, I think we could get some pictures for this episode and show some of your masterwork.
Oh yeah. I want to see this.
No pressure.
It's usually the most difficult part is just setting up the sizing and the sizing when it comes to various sizes in your car. There are ways of getting around it, and it's a little bit on the pricier end, but you can have seat inserts for having people that have, whether they're smaller and you happen to have bigger drivers. That is always a way to make a person fit into a car in a situation, because sometimes you might have a very, very short person and those belts just aren't going to work. So trying to get that nice happy middle is where you want to be.
Especially if you're living right and you're not using those dangerous ass sliders. then you really do have to think of ways to bring the body to the belts. You bring the body, a smaller body up to the belts and the controls, So that's, you're right. And I don't know, I don't think having inserts necessarily has to be pricey. Also, my team, we just save every pad that's ever come with any race seat we have. So we have an assortment of pads, and then the little fellas on the team. I've never do this because I'm always one of the taller people, but the little fellas on the team grab up all the pads that work for them. They're like, "Hey, give me my pads," and we throw them all this assortment of random ass pads.
I think early on we've actually made our own, and that was going out and getting foam and then taping them with what is it, gaffer's tape?
Yeah.
And then we just actually kind of put a race stripe on top of it. So
that made them go faster.
We would fit it. Yeah. It made made the car go faster.
Did we talk to Johnny Sachowski about this when he was on?
We did. We talked to him a little bit.
Yeah. That's a good episode to go reference. Maybe Bill could link that in the show notes if anybody's interested in learning a little bit more about the the way to safely make SFI approved, won't set your butt on fire seat padding. That's one guy who knows a lot about it.
Tiny bit. Johnny C.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of arrow in there if you want to diversify your knowledge portfolio. So I'll put all the links in the episode description so you don't have to keep track at home.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So the most important thing about installing your harness is
making sure it's
big old body washers under the car if you're doing your sub belt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how you install it. It doesn't matter how you wind it, how you strip it around, if it's holding on to a piece of tinfoil, it will break through the tinfoil.
Yeah.
And then it's doing you no good.
It's, harness is a fair amount of black magic, but it's also fairly straightforward. And I say, be willing to roll into tech with an open mind and learn. Don't be rolling into tech thinking, well, I read the instructions on these. I know I did it right. You get into tech and they want you to do it differently, whatever, just listen to what they said, ask for clarification if you're not clear, and do it, and then roll back through. Don't take it personally, and also once you've done a handful of harnesses, it becomes a little bit like riding a bike. There's nuance from brand to brand, but overall, there's not that much mystery to it, especially kind of once you get the mechanics down. So don't be intimidated by doing it. If you have questions, reach us here and we will try to help you.
That's right. So make sure they're installed properly and make sure everybody fits them.
Yeah. Yes.
And make sure whatever you're securing it to can take a decent amount of energy that a impact could produce, which can be significant. So we've had to reinforce the floors of our Honda in certain spots just because the metal, when in doubt, put some more metal. It's okay.
Yeah.
Ben doesn't paint his cars, but he's willing to add a sheet of steel to make sure his dome does not hit the windshield.
Certainly. Build me more of a plinth, put something under it. I don't care about that kind of thing. That's fine. It's all down low anyway. Who cares, right?
That's right. It just makes the handling better.
help me get heat in the tire quicker.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Miss Vicky, did I miss anything? You are the harness queen.
No, I think we got it.
Okay. Very well. Harnesses installed
properly.
We'll see what some of our listeners say, because this is one of those where we start talking and our listeners write in and say, you have no idea what you're talking about, but that's okay. We like those episodes too.
Be ready for feedback about your harnesses or your harness episode, right?
Exactly.
Be open and ready and do whatever people say.
Yep. So this may be part one of many. We'll find out if the feedback comes in.
Oh gosh. Now that you said that, I have to say that I'm not an engineer. I'm just a full-time dumbass. So hit us with all you got.
Latin, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. VAR is your favorite. We know, Ben. We got the whole thing. We got the t-shirt that has the whole list. We're good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.